All right. So today we're going to jump into Module 11. We're also past the halfway point of the class. So welcome to week 9. If you've made it this far, that's good news. We're coming up on the deadline for the hard deadline for assignment 1 through 5. Remember, anybody who doesn't have those assignments posted by that date will be dropped from the class. So just if you're behind, that's something you want to be aware of. And that is for everyone's own good, because if by this point in the class, if we're on module 11, you haven't completed module 5, the odds of you catching up are almost zero. And now I have several people who come to me around this deadline and say something like, um, hey, life's been really crazy, but I'm going to try really hard. I'm going to get caught up. Um, and I don't know, maybe one out of every 20 of those actually does it. The reality is if you're that far behind at this point in the class just gets harder. So you're going to have a hard time catching up. So it's probably better to take the W in this case, and try again later, or just maybe lighten the load a little bit for whatever you're having to work on. Anyway, into what we are going to refer to as Python modules. Now that is something that uh, we have covered from a usage standpoint in this class. You've been using Python modules since the first couple of weeks of the class, although you maybe haven't exactly been aware of it. Some of the modules that we've used so far include the turtle module, which we've been using for several sandbox assignments. We've also used the random module quite a bit. So those are a couple that you probably are familiar with from other assignments, but we haven't really talked about what it is exactly that we're doing. And Python modules are a thing that Python includes that allows us to do things in Python that Python can't do by itself. So in other words, if there are things that you wish Python could do, whatever they might be, that there aren't functions for in Python already, you can create these modules, sometimes called libraries, that include functions and sometimes even variables like the number pi, right? Not an easy number to type out since it's an infinite number. Uh, those are things that you could keep in a module that would allow you to use those things without having to recreate them every time or type them into your program directly. So modules allow us to do things that we can't do in native Python. So how do they work? All a module is Python accessible code stored in another file. Now, for the purpose of this class, the modules that we're going to be using and creating are going to be written in Python code, but they don't have to be. It just has to be any programming language that can talk to Python. Could be C++, could be Java, could be a lot of different things. The nice thing about that is that there are some things you simply can't do with Python very easily, even if you add code to it and create functions and things like that. Python has limitations like every programming language. But the fact that it can use modules that are created in other programming languages means that there's almost no limit to what Python can do, because it can do everything Python can do, plus everything most of the other major languages can do, which is why we have Python out there controlling robots and things like that. So you can leverage the strengths of Python, which include training AI and mathematical modeling and all kinds of things, and you can connect those to other languages that allow you to do things like talk to hardware and get data from sensors and all kinds of really exciting things. So any code that Python can access and talk to that is outside of your main script that gets imported using the import statement is considered a module. Why do we want to use modules? Well, in addition to allowing us to do things that we can't do in native Python, what we get from modules is code that's more organized and easier to understand. We talked about this with custom functions, right? How taking code and moving it into a custom function allows our main program to be a lot more succinct, a lot shorter, easier to follow. So it makes our code easier to understand. And it's like a custom function. We're taking code out of our main program and moving it elsewhere. But the nice thing about a module is that we're moving it to a whole new file. And what that allows us to do is it allows us to reuse that code or reuse those functions over and over and over. So it makes code more reusable, makes it easy to maintain, because think about it. Let's say I have a financial calculating formula that I use in my business. And that formula gets used by 100 different programs, but it's a module. So I'm just importing it and using it in all of those programs. If that formula changes, if something about my business says that formula now needs to change, instead of having to change that formula in 100 different programs, I just change the one place. I change it in the module, and all of those programs that are importing it automatically get updated. So it allows you to have a lot of power and efficiency when you're updating code.